City of Northglenn, Channel 8, keeping you informed of events in your community.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to call to order our June 11th City Council meeting. Joanna, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Dodge?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Escobar?
Here.
Councilmember Sowers?
Here.
Councilmember Lighty?
Here.
Councilmember Downing?
Here.
Councilmember Brown?
Here.
Councilmember Whitman?
Here.
Councilmember Duran Mullica?
Here.
Councilmember Wilford?
Here. Thank you. Would you join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Rob, is there any response to citizen inquiry tonight?
Not that I'm aware of.
Good answer.
No.
Okay. Are there any agenda additions and deletions from the council? No? All right. So we will move into our interview, and we are interviewing Nathan Romero for the Planning Commission. Nathan, you want to come on forward? Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Good. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
So you want to just explain to the council why you want to be on Planning Commission, and just tell us a little bit about your background.
Okay, so I'm currently on the Board of Adjustments, and I would like to be on the Planning Commission to be more involved with the city. I have lived in the city for quite a while, and I want to contribute and be involved as much as possible. And I feel like being on the Planning Commission would definitely be that avenue for me. As far as my background, I've worked for the city of Arvada. I've been there for 18 years. I'm currently a plan reviewer for the city. Been doing that for the last 3 years. I predominantly do residential and some commercial reviews. And on a daily basis, I communicate with the planning department, utilities, engineering, and with the public.
All right, so does the council have any questions for Nathan? Becky? No, go ahead first.
I just wondered, you're already on one of the boards. Do you feel that you have enough time for the Planning Commission also?
I might have to resign from the Board of Adjustments in order to take the position.
Any other questions?
Not a question, really. Your expertise is so valid that I think you should take a little spin on our new zoning code that we're rewriting. Take a little read and see if there's any kind of thing that jumps out at you as something we should consider since we're doing a big rewrite.
Yeah, I definitely have looked at the process that you guys have been going through right now, and have been educating myself with it. I do think it's a great idea that you're consolidating everything into one ordinance and making it easier for everyone to find.
Glad to hear it. Well, we welcome more feedback if you catch
Definitely.
anything.
Any other questions? All right. Nathan, thank you for applying for the position, and I'm sure you're a shoo-in, so thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks. Great. We will move to proclamations. There is one tonight, and we don't have a recipient, so I will just read it from the dais. And this is a proclamation for Men's Health Month. Whereas, despite advances in medical technology and research, men continue to live an average of 5 years less than women, with Native American and African American men having the lowest life expectancy. And whereas educating the public and healthcare providers about the importance of a healthy lifestyle and early detection of male health problems will result in reducing rates of mortality from disease. And whereas men who are educated about the value that preventative health can play in prolonging their lifespan and their role as productive family members will be more likely to participate in health screenings. And whereas Men's Health Network worked with Congress to develop a national men's health awareness period as a special campaign to help educate men, boys, and their families about the importance of positive health attitudes and preventative health practices. And whereas the Men's Health Month website has been established at www.menshealthmonth.org and features resources and information about awareness events and activities, including Wear Blue for Men's Health. And whereas Men's Health Month will focus on a broad range of men's health issues, including heart disease, mental health, diabetes, and prostate, testicular, and colon cancer. And whereas the residents of Northglenn are encouraged to increase awareness of the importance of a healthy lifestyle, regular exercise, and medical checkups. Now, therefore, I, Carol Dodge, Mayor of the City of Northglenn, Colorado, hereby proclaim June 2018 as Men's Health Month in the City of Northglenn and encourage all of our residents to pursue preventative health practices and early detection efforts. Dated at Northglenn, Colorado, this 11th day of June 2018. And we will pass that along to the appropriate recipients. All right. We have a presentation tonight of our 2017 audit. And I believe Kevin DeSanti with RSM. Hi, Kevin.
Hello. Thank
Hi,
you
how
for
are
having me.
You bet.
So
What does RSM stand for?
You're quizzing me now. The M stands for McGladrey. The R, I believe, is was one of our English firms in England, and the S was from one of the firms in France. And so we did a global rebranding as RSM a few years back.
Okay. I don't feel so bad. I thought it was me being bad that I didn't know what those stood for. But
No,
you don't know either. So
no, pretty much everyone on this side of the Atlantic doesn't know what the R or the S is, but we do know what the M is.
All right.
So.
Sounds good.
Well, thank you all for having me. I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to audit the city for this year. We really appreciate it. So here is the clicker. So we have a little, just a quick presentation for y'all. It's just to kind of go over some of the financial performance from the 2017 calendar year, as well as to go through some of the required communications that our standards just dictate that we communicate to y'all. Please feel free to ask questions at any point in time if you'd like me to go into more detail, or if you have any questions on anything that I haven't brought up specifically. So first we'll kind of go through the city financials at a high level. So here is just a kind of graph of the revenue for all governmental funds. These are only the government funds. This does not include the operating revenue from the enterprise funds. And so as you can see from the graph, revenue all in all is up about $1 million, or about 3%. Almost all of that increase is in taxes. That accounted for about $700,000 of it. And then investment earnings accounted for about another $200,000. One note on the investment earnings, this is just kind of the 2017 year as a market was better than 16. The growth there was not because of any shifts in your portfolio or taking on riskier investments. Nothing like that. It was just a better year for the market. On this next one, we're looking at expenditures for all governmental funds. Again, this does not include your enterprise funds. Governmental expenditures increased quite drastically in the current year, $13 million or so, but it's almost all related to the community center. So the green graph is the capital outlay. This is where all of the money for capital expenditures would be accounted through. That is the largest increase of about 9 to 10 million. And then there was some debt service costs also related to the community center that the city had to start paying during the calendar year. Yes?
I just want to clarify, the community center or the justice center?
I apologize, the Justice Center.
I can hear a resident hearing that number.
My apologies, my
That's okay.
apologies.
No
The
worries.
community center is coming up.
Got
it. In future years, but no, my apologies, the
it's fine.
Justice Center. So here we go through the net position of the governmental activities. The net position is very similar to what you would consider net assets in a not-for-profit or equity in a for-profit business. And then we break it down into 3 different categories. The largest category is the blue column, which is net investment in capital assets. This is the amount of the net position that is invested in your capital assets. This is monies that really cannot be spent because it's with your fixed assets, those types of items. And then we have the green, which is a very small portion. This is your restrictions due to third parties. So your table restriction would be in that category. This is not internal committed decisions. This is from third parties. And then the last category is unrestricted. This is your net position that is unrestricted for any use. On this next graph, we're just kind of looking at the general fund specifically as it relates to how much of the current year expenditures was sitting in net position, the unrestricted portion. So you saw that about 92% of the city's expenditures could be accounted for in that net position. This is just a metric to see based on how committed or reserved the general fund is. This isn't necessarily a good metric or a bad one. It's just more just to kind of note and to keep in mind as you do your city planning. And then here we have a further breakdown of the general fund's net position. As you can see, it is almost entirely that unassigned balance with a small amount in committed, restricted, and virtually none in non-spendable. Here are the operating results for your enterprise funds. It was a very stable year, 2016 to 17. Revenue stayed more or less flat with a slight increase, and the expenses did the exact opposite, more or less flat with a slight decrease. So that's always good when revenues are going up, expenses are going down. We have a slight increase in depreciation expense. However, net income excluding depreciation has gone up by just a small amount, and then cash flow from operations has also increased. That wraps up the financial performance section. Does anyone have any questions or anything that you'd like me to go into in a bit more detail?
Any questions? Can I just ask you, Kevin, when you see that our unassigned fund balance, and it's high, and, we are lucky that it's that way, but is it an anomaly amongst other municipalities to have a balance that high, or is this I'd like to be compared to other cities, I guess.
So it's not, this is kind of a metric, it's more used for planning purposes to see how much of your fund balance would be available if you wanted to start making some internal restrictions or things like that. As a metric to be compared with other cities, it's more of a management type decision, and so that metric might not be very useful or helpful to the city, but it's more just showing that a large amount of the general fund expenditures could be accounted for in that unrestricted fund balance. And again, that's more just for internal planning purposes.
Thank you. Any other questions from anyone? No? Continue, please.
So here we kind of go through just a general synopsis of some of the required communications. This sort of follows the format of that post-audit letter that we had circulated prior to this meeting. So the most important aspect of this is we did issue what we consider a clean audit opinion. That is the highest opinion that we can give, and essentially is that we did not find any significant errors in where we would need to qualify our opinion or completely abstain from giving one. There were no significant adoptions of any new accounting standards or any significant changes in accounting policies. And we also agree that there were no significant policies that needed to be implemented. We do note that there are some management judgments and there are some estimates in what we do. Those estimates typically rely on the useful life of fixed assets, bad debt analysis, and then some of the OPEB, other post-employment benefit assumptions, but none of these would be considered highly significant or up to a high degree of estimation. We do have 2 audit adjustments for the year. One was in just adjusting how sales tax was allocated. And then the other was from the Church Ditch Water Authority reversing some revenue reimbursement that was not approved until 2018. The one thing that I do want to note on the one audit adjustment for the city, that audit adjustment was actually at our, what we would consider under that next category, uncorrected misstatements, meaning that it was more than what we would consider clearly trivial. However, based on our testing, we did not feel that the adjustment needed to be made. The financials would have been materially correct without it. However, Jason and Jessica decided to make that adjustment, and so it went from being an uncorrected adjustment to an actual adjustment. And then we did not have any other uncorrected adjustments. We did not have any disagreements with management. We did not have any difficulties in performing our audit. We did not have any difficulties in performing our audit. And then in the CAFR, in footnote 5, it will go through the future GASB pronouncements that are upcoming that will need to be adopted anywhere from the next year to several years out. The GASB sometimes gives us a good amount of leeway before they need to be adopted. The city did receive the GFOA award for 2016, and we anticipate that they will receive it for 2017. And then for report over internal controls over financial statements, we did not have any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies that we would need to bring to your attention. Yes.
I'm going to take you back.
Sure.
Can you explain to me the audit adjustments? I mean, it's kind of vague, and I just want to understand exactly how we were classifying before and what changes were suggested.
So this was actually just a change in how the sales tax was being allocated to several of the funds. We did not note that the amount of sales tax that had been recorded was correct. However, based on our procedures, we felt it should have been allocated in a slightly different quantities, and which caused that adjustment.
Okay.
Can you clarify for me what GFOA means?
So that is an award over the financial reporting of the city. It is to receive that award, the city has to jump through a few additional hoops in their reporting. They cannot have certain deficiencies, and they cannot have any material weaknesses. And so it's a great award for the city to receive, which shows that the city really takes their financial reporting very seriously. And so that's what that GFOA submission is.
Great.
That kind of takes it through everything that we had to discuss. If there's any questions, I'm more than happy to field them at this time. You can also, if any questions ever do come up in the future, you feel free to always reach out to myself or Kristen Hughes, the partner on the job, and Jessica or Jason would have our contact information.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions? No? Kevin, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for the opportunity to present.
Thank you.
And also thanks to Jessica and Jason for good work. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. The next item is public invited to be heard, limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Statements shall be related to city business and limited to matters of community interest. Is there anyone who would like to come forward tonight? Okay, seeing no one, we will move on to the Legislative Policy Committee update. Rob, is that yours?
I believe that
Or Corey? Or
Julie or Jenny.
We could provide an
gonna do
update.
Okay.
So, tonight, the legislative committee got together and we discussed a couple things. One of them was updating the policy statement for next year. That's still in the works, and that's gonna come back to council, what was the date?
July.
Or during a study session.
Yeah.
So we'll all review those together. Another topic that we discussed was the annual legislative dinner that we discussed previously about moving it up to August, and it was going to be at Red Lobster. But after the committee was talking, we decided and we like feedback from the rest of the council. We wanted to kind of change it up. We heard that, maybe the legislative dinner is a little bland, maybe not. We're not really getting kind of the connection we'd like from our legislators. So Corey had a great idea of doing a city tour, which would be kind of a unique way to introduce our legislature to what are Northglenn specific issues. So we're still open to what that would include, but we would like to have maybe like a catered lunch or something at the Stonehawker plantation, just because it would really be a great way to, loop in our historical preservation work. So.
We need to talk about that.
Yeah.
It depends on how many people, would be attending.
Exactly, yes, and that's another thing. We talked about possibly doing 2 different tours to meet people's schedules. And so it would depend on how big that group would be. But we really just want to showcase Northglenn and have a conversation with folks about what that would be versus, a dinner at, Red Lobster, which
It's a restaurant.
is a, right?
Yeah, no, and I think one of the things that we wanted to bring to all of you was just this open space to talk about different ideas for a tour, right? We don't necessarily want to put folks in a car and drive throughout the city, but rather focus in on the issues that are really unique to Northglenn that they could potentially see legislation on in the upcoming session. And then provide, anecdotes around why that particular issue is really impacting our residents or our city as a whole, in an effort to do a little bit more of showing instead of just telling what our issues are. And our hope is that as our delegates, our representatives are going to the legislature, that when they're advocating on a piece of legislation, that they're actually armed with stories from our city that they can use when they're supporting or opposing a piece of legislation. So, whether we're having this conversation, here tonight or at the study session on the 16th, we really do want to hear from you what you think the biggest issues are in terms of, things that we could showcase for the city. For example, one of the things that we talked about was in relation to urban renewal, spending time at the marketplace or at some of the other areas like the Huron Center and showing, what we were able to do. Talking about, we recently did a bill signing at Stonehawker and talking about how critical, historic preservation is to our city in the context of some of the other significantly, important architectural structures. So anyway, that's kind of the direction that we're heading in terms of wanting to be a little bit more intentional and having really meaningful conversations as opposed to, a space where we can certainly have conversations and build relationships, but more information sharing in the
Can I ask, do you think we could do like a virtual tour? I mean, in that way, my question for asking this, if a virtual tour, then questions from everybody could be at the same time, you know what I mean? I just want to throw that out. I think it's a great idea.
Interesting idea. Well, and then especially like if we identify maybe like a location that's maybe further away or something like that. I mean, we'd have to think about the program. I mean, this was literally just brought up now. So, but I think like a virtual, I think that's a great idea. I think that's something we could bring.
Like it.
I think it could be something that could be really great with communications. I know that Carol had just done a video up at the Justice Center, and so maybe this is an extension of that, that we're talking about, Northglenn at the legislature. These are some of the things that we're concerned about. It just kind of adds on to all of the other work that we're doing.
I think that's pretty exciting. It's a great
I think
idea.
it's a good idea. It just
Yeah,
sounds kind of
it's
fun
great.
in a different way to kind of build relationships. Because that was our goal, is we were thinking about what are ways that we could build better relationships with folks so that, you know, we're not an afterthought or we're not just, you know, another dinner. And so a couple other ideas were that we wanted to plan, you know, maybe even get like a sample of council members and do one-on-one lunches with our representatives, probably at the beginning of session or something like that, so that we could actually, you know, meet these people, have a conversation with them, and again, build those relationships, right? We wanna continue to foster that.
All right.
I think you guys are on the right path. It's a really great idea.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Not if you ask me, I just think it's a great idea.
Any other feedback from anybody? No? Okay. Well,
Sounds
thank
good.
you for bringing it
Yeah.
forward, and we look forward to revisiting at a study session.
Yep, sounds good.
Thank you for your work. Thank you. All right, next is the financial report with Jason Loveland for April.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll try to keep this brief since we're mixing years and a whole bunch of numbers tonight. So I'll start off. So we're a third of the way through the year as of this report through April, as was mentioned. Update on sales and use tax. I'll start with that. Sales and use tax is up about $180,000, which is about 3.5% year over year. And then a whole lot of fluctuations within that number. I'll go through a couple of things. The food tax is down 2%. Sales tax is up 6%. The auto tax is down 10%. Accommodations tax is up 20%. And use tax is down 6%. So we kind of have some mixed messages in our sales and use tax at the moment for the first couple months of the year. Hopefully we'll see some of that level off and turn all of those negatives the other way. But I thought that was kind of interesting. That's a little bit unique compared to the last several months. So I wanted to make note of that specifically. So I'm going to go through really high-level revenues and expenditures, and please stop me if you guys have questions on any specific line or department as we talk about expenditures. The general fund year-to-date revenues are at $6.9 million. That's an increase of 3% year over year. You'll see the majority of that is 27% actually is due to the property tax increase. We've talked about the assessed valuations and those changes. So a large portion of that revenue increase in the general fund is specific to property taxes, as was expected through the year. In the expenditure area, total expenditures at $7.3 million, which is under the third of the planned budget. So we're at 27.5%. That's in line with expectations. There's a couple of expenditure lines. Public Works, if you'll notice, is their budget seems, compared to last year, that it's a lot more spending. That was for one transaction to buy a dump truck for about $250,000. Again, that was a planned expenditures, but you'll notice that in the comparisons. And then in the water and wastewater fund, year-to-date revenues are at $3.3 million. This is an increase of about 6.5% from the prior year. We've already talked about the food tax being down a couple of percent. I did look at consumption over the first several months of the year, and they're basically flat consumption. So we talk about the winter months, I guess, if you will, for January, February, March, to a certain degree, and you know, those revenue, the use is flat compared to the past year. We also saw a little bit of a decline when we did our calculation for wastewater, which is the winter average. That has even ticked down a little bit when we did that calculation this year. So conservation, even over the winter months when you don't expect to see too much, is definitely occurring. And then expenditures, those are at $3.4 million in the water and wastewater fund. That's down about $1.8 million. That's specifically due to capital projects of the Headworks project year over year. In the stormwater fund, revenues are at $119,000, which is a small increase over the prior year. That's really just due to the timing of billings. There hasn't been a change in fee, or there's really no reason that there would be an increase, so it's really just the timing. And then year-to-date expenditures in the stormwater fund are at $69,000. And then lastly, the sanitation fund, year-to-date revenues are at $523,000, which is a small decrease. You'll see recycling revenue and things. They're small amounts at the moment, but percentage-wise, they're down significantly on the price of commodities. And then expenditures are at $374,000, and that accounts for 24% of the annual appropriation. Is there any questions on the fund specifics necessarily? Okay. Very well. And then I'll report on our cash that we have invested is at $61.2 million, and that's up from $55.2 over the 2017. And
Pretty significant.
That is a fairly significant amount. Part of that is planning, as we heard from the auditor, with reserves and planning for future expenditures of capital expenditure nature. So anyway, that is all I had.
That's all you have? All right. Does anyone have any other questions on any other part of the report for Jason?
Usual, it's a very exciting.
Yeah.
Just wanted you to know how much I love it.
I very much appreciate that.
Thank you, sir. All right. We move to the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Joanna, would you open this, please?
The vote is open.
Please vote.
Close that vote, and the consent agenda passes unanimously.
Thank you. We have, I'm sorry, skipped through here. We have a few public hearings tonight. So I will open the first public hearing on CB 1905. Joanna, would you read that, please?
A bill for a special ordinance amending the 2018 budget, recognizing revenues and appropriating expenditures by supplemental appropriation for the payment of the costs and expenses of the municipal government, agencies, and offices of the City of Northglenn, Colorado for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2018.
Thank you. Is there anyone who would like to come forward to discuss CB 1905? All right, seeing no one, I will close that public hearing. I will open the next public hearing for CB 1906, a trash ordinance amendment. Joanna, would you read that title, please?
A bill for an ordinance amending Article 7 of Chapter 16 of the Northglenn Municipal Code to remove mattresses, bed springs, and box springs as special pickup items.
All right. Is there anyone who would like to come forward to discuss CB 1906? All right. Seeing no one, I will close that public hearing, and I will open the last public hearing, CB 1907, Entertainment District. Joanna, would you read that title, please?
A bill for an ordinance amending the City of Northglenn Municipal Code by the addition thereto of a new Article 17 to Chapter 18 regarding entertainment districts.
Is there anyone who would like to come forward to speak on CB 1907? Funny. Seeing no one, I will close that public hearing also. All right. We will move into ordinances, second reading, and we will begin with CB 1905. Joanna, would you read that title again, please? Thank you.
A bill for a special ordinance amending the 2018 budget, recognizing revenues and appropriating expenditures by supplemental appropriation for the payment of the costs and expenses of the municipal government, agencies, and offices of the City of Northglenn, Colorado for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2018.
Rob, would you like to give us an update,
I think
please?
if Jason might want to give us an update on that.
Jason, okay. Jason, come on up.
This is the majority of this supplemental is for our CIP carryover. In our charter, all funds and funding expire at the end of the year. So what we do during the budget process is estimate how much in projects will carry over, will be unexpended from one year to the next. The detailed sheets on the back that are the capital improvement programs. The green column is kind of just reconciling our estimates that we would have made in August or so, and then truing them up through the audit. So we're modifying the budgets, pluses or minuses, depending on how we estimated. So we're rolling that money over. And then on the second page of the memo, those are additional items being added to the budget, largely items that have been talked about in council meetings over the last several months. So with that, we're adding a total of $9,029,893 in expenditures and recognizing revenues for 2 grant awards for the Northwest Open Space project, totaling $2,040,000. So.
Does anyone have questions? This is quite an addition and supplemental, so.
All right.
No? All right, Jason, thank you very much. Joanna, would you open the vote, please?
I'm sorry.
There wasn't a motion.
That's right.
Oh, oh, you did? I never even noticed that there wasn't a motion. I'm sorry. Can I get a motion?
Move. Second.
All right. I'm sorry. Joanna, would you open the vote?
Okay, the vote is open.
Never even noticed. Just go like this now. Hey, here.
I'll close that vote, and CB 1905 on second reading passes unanimously.
Thank you, Joanna. All right, we will move to the CB 1906, trash ordinance amendment. Joanna, would you read that title, please?
A bill for an ordinance amending Article 7 of Chapter 16 of the Northglenn Municipal Code to remove mattresses, bed springs, and box springs as special pickup items.
Can I get a motion?
Second.
Thank you. Rob?
At the last meeting, at the first hearing, excuse me, the first reading, council had asked for some additional information. I provided some information from the City of Loveland, City of Longmont, Denver, and the City of Thornton with some of their costs. As you can see, there's a wide spread of things that everybody does differently for mattresses and box springs. What we're asking is basically to allow us to not pick these up anymore because of the increased cost that's going to happen at the landfills. I believe our contract calls for $20 per item. So if that's a mattress and a box spring, it would be $40 at a cost to the city. We've talked with the City of Thornton, and they are willing to work with us in doing some combined pickups, or to have a recycling company come out, and we would work with them, or we would work independently with them or with the recycling company to come out and have that, but they would be still charging a fee, but they would do that directly with the recycling company if we did that. This doesn't prevent us from doing any other type of promotion or anything like that. It just changes the ordinance so that we're not incurring that additional cost every time we pick up mattresses and box springs. I think that the last number that we had was last year, I think we had over 1,500 mattresses and box springs and bed springs that we picked up that we were able to discard at our normal tipping rate. But if we continue that beyond June 30th, then we would start getting charged that $20 per item.
Okay. Questions?
Why aren't we still offering it as a service to our residents but charging more for it? Because the number one thing you see laying around in the city is mattresses, box springs, and furniture. And I'd really hate to take that resource away from the residents.
Well, we still offer the pickups for, you can do a pickup for large items, but we've exempted like refrigerators with refrigerant and mattresses. One of the reasons we want to get rid of the mattresses is because we don't have a place to store them, and we have to put them in the dumpster right away and then get rid of them because we have to protect them from moisture, because otherwise they won't be taken at the recycle, and we also don't want to introduce bed bugs into the city area. So there's other opportunities we could look at in the future to try to do that, where we could do drop-off days, or if we wanted to pick them up as a special thing, but we'd want to get rid of them that same day or the next day so that we're not holding on to them.
Discussion?
Go ahead, Marcy.
So I had a good conversation with then City Manager Jim Hayes about this, and I have a great deal of concern. I don't think residents now have the ability to take their mattress somewhere. That's why they depend on the city. I mean, people that have cars, they are like tying it to the top. I think it's gonna become really convenient for them to put them out or to get them just far enough to dump them out of business. I know, my office building, we constantly have water heaters and TVs. It's like the thing. And so Jim and I had a conversation about doing some tracking to have, code enforcement and everybody just kind of keep track of the increase of how much we're seeing mattresses laying around. I think it's really important to council that we see that number and revisit this. I'm really concerned that these are just going to become an eyesore hanging around in the city, propped up against a fence. So I would just ask if there could be some level of communication with us here at council, if how this progresses as an issue.
Absolutely. I talked to Keith Kovach, who's our sanitation supervisor. He has started to track how many mattresses we pick up, like out of the streets or gutters or in the ditches and those kind of things. It hasn't been overwhelming in the city of Northglenn. However, we did talk to Thornton. They implemented this in January, and they said they haven't really seen a big increase in the number of mattresses that are out there. There are a couple of other things that we would like to promote with this on the website and to our residents is when buying a new mattress, a lot of times the places you're buying them will deliver and take the old ones back, and they recycle them themselves. We also would offer up the recycle center number so people can set that up on their own and then do the other things like once or twice a year. Maybe we do a drop off or a pickup. And we have a couple of days where we could go out and actually pick those up with a front end loader or a grapple hook. The problem is it's very difficult to get those, and the time that it takes, it takes one person to go out there and get that, and takes them out of doing their regular routes and all those kind of things. But yeah, we absolutely can track.
Yeah, I get that. I just think it hasn't been an issue in the city, and I'm hearing that it wasn't important, but it hasn't been an issue because we've been picking them up.
Right,
so,
right, yeah.
It hasn't needed to become an issue quite yet. And then communication-wise, I just think this is one of those things that can be pre-scheduled weekly to be reoccurring posts, so it's not just like an infrequent thing or we're filling space.
I could work with Kim to make sure that we do that through communications department.
So I'm really concerned about this, and I know I voiced my concern before. There's so many of our residents that don't have the ability to have these things, either mattresses and box springs, removed. I mean, they're seniors or maybe disabled or don't have that type of vehicle, or maybe monetarily, they just cannot do it. So I actually talked to the mayor of Thornton, and they do pick up, like you said, for $65.
Right.
They love it. They love it, and you can put anything in that pickup. I mean, no matter what it is. So I think we really need to be thinking more about the alternatives rather than doing something like this. I'm going to vote no on this because I really think that this is bad for our citizens. I do.
Sure. I think that even if you vote for it, I think that still gives us the opportunity to go out and do things like you're talking about. If we wanted to do a special rate pickup, we could still do that on our own, but this prevents us from having to do it for free.
I think there should have been a plan put in place before you brought this forward. So I think should have been more thought to it rather than having the landfill Erie say to you, oh, we're going to raise the fees, and the knee-jerk reaction is, oh, well, we won't pick these up. I just think that's not the appropriate method to handle this.
Any other feedback? No? I definitely think it's a fine line because I know we can't do it for free, but definitely we should be offering services, alternatives for people. So I think it's going to be on the city and, you as the acting right now to make sure you're following through on alternatives for people.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion?
Well, and I think it's also important for us to stay just up to date on how many extra mattresses and box springs we're seeing just thrown in fields that the city has to clean up. How is this going to impact you in your department, moving forward? Are we going to see more work that you guys have to do to make sure to clean up all of the mattresses that are just places? We don't know what's going to happen, but it would be good just to kind of keep us informed in that.
We will do that.
First of all, I'd like to apologize for having to step out. I have a question. What happens if we don't do this amendment? What happens June 30th? We start picking up the cost.
We would continue to pick those up because they're not restricted through the ordinance. So we would still pick them up through the roll-off containers that people get for communities, or pick them up for special pickups, and then we would get charged at the dump when we dump them off.
I'm going to echo Joyce's concerns. I think I kind of made that before I had to step out. It's not acceptable to me to just stop this service, because as I was saying earlier, we're going to find more. I was driving in here today and there's a mattress laying on somebody's grass, and I stopped and said, hey, we'll pick that up for you. So how about calling it in? And then I get here and go, well, if you do it this week. I don't think to stop is the right answer, and I understand what you're saying, that we can always go back and add a program or do that, but it's a lot harder than just saying it to get it going again. So I'll be voting no tonight too on this. My direction from that would be, depending on the vote, is that we need to come up with in my mind, we need to come up with an alternative to this plan.
Rob, didn't you, in your memo during the study session, have something about a number of how many you picked up?
Yeah, I think last year was well over 1,500, and I think 1,500. Yeah, I'm trying to remember what the number was to date. I think it's in that memo.
I couldn't remember what the number was. All right, is there any further discussion? Jenny?
Thanks. Just a clarifying question. So we're saying that if we vote for this tonight, we will no longer pick up any mattresses or box springs at full stop, right? It's not we're gonna pick them up for a price.
Right. That all we're doing is exempting the fact that we would pick them up for free. It doesn't prevent us from going back and saying that we could pick them up at some cost in the future.
But that's not, I'm sorry, Jenny.
No, I think that we're kind of in the same place. I appreciate where this is coming from. I'll be a no vote tonight because I don't like just saying we're not going to pick this up and not having a plan in place. I'd rather have something come forward that says we're no longer going to be picking up mattresses for free. We're going to put a fee in place and this is how we're going to manage it. I don't like not knowing what's going to happen and figuring it out and building the airplane as we're flying it.
Since the dump in Erie isn't starting the program till the 1st, can't we at least delay it till July 1st?
Yeah, we wouldn't implement this till July 1st anyway, yeah.
So that means a massive communication effort on our part. Have you thought about that? Is there something in the works for communications?
Yeah, Kim's aware of that, and that we know that we have to send that information out. If this is approved, then we would send all that information out to residents through the normal communication, the connection, all those kind of things to let people know. With all the information about how they can dispose of a mattress, who they can call, what they can do if they want to buy one. If they're buying a new mattress, a lot of these companies will come pick them up. One of the concerns we have is the large number that we pick up. We believe that a lot of people, because we do it for free, bring in neighbors and friends, and we pick them up for them, and then we get stuck with the cost of taking them to the dump because of that. And so everybody else is charging now. We're the only ones that are doing it for free. And so I think that if we don't do something, that we're going to continue to be inundated with that free service from everybody else.
How about you, Antonio?
It's okay. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
My only concern is that we don't have numbers in front of us other than what the cost would be. But I mean, what would the overall cost be for the year? If we picked up 1,500 mattresses last year and it was $60, I mean, do the math. Is that something the city can absorb? Or is that something we're willing to absorb? Or is it something we can split with the residents? If you give us some options, then it's easier to make a decision. It's kind of hard to make a decision when you're juggling numbers, and I'm just looking at these numbers and I'm saying, well, what does that mean to me as a city?
Right. I know that there are a couple, I think it's Longmont does a voucher where they're allowed to do one a year, like one set a year. They give them a voucher and the city picks it up and then the city picks up that cost for one box spring and mattress per address. So there are different things out there that others have done. Almost all the cities have gone to this recycle. It's called, trying to remember what the name of it is. It's in here, but they're the only company that recycles in Colorado, and they're the ones that charge the $20 per item. And they'll come out to Northglenn or wherever, set up a big truck, and then they'll load them up, but they charge at that location for doing that. So, I mean, I don't think there's any way of us getting out of paying for it, and I understand what you're saying. Do we want to absorb that as a city? That's not really my decision, I guess. That's a decision if we want to ask for more budget in the sanitation department, and could we afford to do that? We possibly could, but I think if we continue the way we're going, we're going to be the only city that's collecting these for free, and we're going to pay that cost for the city, and we're going to subsidize other people outside of it if we don't control it in some way.
That voucher program sounds like a really good way to manage. You know, my brother-in-law bringing his mattress over to my house, and then my sister-in-law bringing hers over,
Right.
and then my uncle bringing his over.
I mean, Thornton does the $65. I think they do limit the number of items you can put in there as we do. We limit it to 10 items. I don't think we go out and count them, but typically we limit it to 10.
No, they don't. She said, when I was talking to the mayor, she says, they save up everything.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and then they just,
Right.
fill the truck, and they do it twice a year.
Right. So we certainly can look at those type of things where we can do that. The biggest problem for us, other than the cost, is the storage of the mattresses, because we have to get rid of them. We can't store them, because if they get wet, they're no good for recycling. And if they have bed bugs, now we have introduced that problem into our city, into M&O or wherever we would be storing them.
Julie?
I'd really like to see a program where the city still has an option for you to do like a special pickup specifically for a mattress, and then the citizen would pay for that service for those who don't have like a truck or can't actually get the mattress to where it needs to be. I feel like that would be a good service. I don't think that the city should be paying for people's mattresses to be disposed of. I just don't really think that is our job to do. I think we should allow the opportunity for somebody to order a special pickup. We swing by, we pick up their stuff, and we just charge them what we would be charged. But I think that's probably, personally for me, the most fair process. And I would like to see something like that in place and communicated out to, because, I think some people might get kind of, stuck expecting that we're going to take their mattresses in a couple weeks.
Right. The one thing I would say, I don't know if it's ever an emergency to get rid of a bed.
No.
But unless you're moving or something like that, but then that's probably the ones that get dumped in the alleys in the streets, so.
Yeah.
I think we can come back with a plan to say, here are some options of what we would like to look at as far as how can we still provide this service without having to hang on to those, and evaluate what that cost is. We're more than happy to bring something back to you on that.
Other than I like the idea of a voucher method or introducing a cap to it. Because mattresses are expensive, so other than having your relatives bringing them over, you're not going to buy one every year, So I still think that the plan should be in place before we introduce this type of thing.
Okay.
So,
Jordan?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to echo Councilmember Downing's remarks as well. The problem I'm also facing is just we don't have a communications plan, and I think this is something that residents they've done for so long, they're going to continue to do, and then there will be an uprising of it when they realize that they can't do it or we just don't pick it up. So I think we need to do more of that communications piece prior to doing or saying that we're going to do something like this. I just fear us getting the calls and saying, what are we going to do? We didn't hear about it. And then when we say the same thing like we always say is, it was in the connection, we had it here, and they're going to say, well, I didn't see it.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay, anyone else?
So could you possibly have a plan in place within 30 days, 60 days?
Absolutely.
And the city, in my opinion, until we can get that plan in place, I think that we as a city should continue to pay for it for no more than 60 days, and that they should have a plan in place. I can see mattresses and box springs going everywhere.
Corey?
Can I make a suggestion?
If council, it sounds like the concerns of council relate to the future plan as opposed to the proposed ordinance. And if that is council's inclination, my suggestion would be to continue the matter on second reading as opposed to voting tonight. If that's going to result in a downvote that'll start the entire process over, and give whatever the date certain is for the continuance on second reading, so that that gives staff the opportunity to come back with a plan, and you can vote on second reading knowing what the plan is.
Could we, instead of that, could we even table it on date certain or something?
Same idea. I think that's
yeah.
exactly what I'm suggesting.
Yeah.
You've already gotten it approved on first reading.
Right.
So you'd simply be, and you've already had your public hearing, so you have satisfied those obligations. So it would just be a matter of when you schedule approval on second reading.
Got it.
Anybody else? The only thing that I might ask is, and not to throw you under the bus, foundation, but is it something that they can help out with? I mean,
Speak for the foundation, but
Right.
I would say
it's a
we can
thought.
bring it up next month. You can bring it up.
Future conversation for the community foundation also. Okay, so we are going to, go ahead.
So I just want to be clear. So I'll bring back a proposal that charges residents with a communication plan and a date that we would implement that, and something that is not going to cost the city money, but gives people an opportunity to still use city services to be able to dispose of their mattresses and box springs in a reasonable way for us. Is that kind of clarify?
Yes.
Is that good?
Vote for something that I.
We're not voting.
Oh,
Not voting.
No, I'm just asking for what you want me to bring back
Yeah.
with it.
okay.
What do you
So
want, Joyce?
What do you, no, it's,
To move the table.
as long as we're not voting either way,
continue
you know,
right
the
now.
continuance is fine.
You're-
With a plan
So
coming
the
back.
plan, but he's asking, what does
What's
the
in the
plan look
plan?
like? So
Well,
we need
I
a
wanna know what the plan
communications
looks
plan.
like.
Yes.
An option.
And then my preference is a few people is that it's not a city, we're not gonna do it for free.
Right?
I personally don't think they get one voucher. I think they need to pay. I think that's appropriate. So do we want one or three options, like sliding scale, like the residents can pay for the whole thing, or they can pay for, I think we just need it more.
It seems like what's the two most popular ideas are the idea of the voucher, so you get that one free one a year, and then the idea of citizens paying the fee entirely. That's what I kind of get.
Yeah.
So bring two different scenarios?
Yeah, the two.
Yeah, I can bring one that gives like a voucher for one free, like, set of
Yeah.
mattresses for an address, and then also do, if you're gonna do this, something like what Thornton has done, where it's a fee for that additional pickup, and if a mattress and box spring are in it, it's like, I think it's $65,
It is.
Joyce, is that what you saw too? $65 to get rid of, a king and queen and a twin-size bed and all the things that go with it.
Do we need a motion to continue voting to second?
Yeah,
reading?
you've got a motion on the table right now, I believe.
Oh, yeah, Marcy?
Just a quick question, and this is just me not knowing. So, truck that would pick up the mattresses, is that a regular dump truck, or is it one of our large item pickups?
It's a large item pickup. It would either be the grapple hook truck, or we'd have to go out there with the front end loader and pick them up, or just have the guys throw them into it, or a dumpster.
And I guess where I was going with that is an option that they're paying, but that it's a once a month optional pickup, that we pick up that whole week, and then take them, like, I'm just.
Oh, like do
what
it
are
on
the
a
options
scheduled-
that you
a scheduled
only have
time?
1 week a month that will pick those up?
Right.
Because you're talking about time.
Right.
Right, and having them sitting somewhere, and maybe a truck could be backed into
I think the hard
barn.
part with that, Marcy, would be that I don't know if we have enough staff to do it. If everybody did that, we probably
Got it.
wouldn't have enough time to get them all and still do it the regular routes. I know the city of Denver does a once a month where you can do large item pickups, and they don't charge, but I think they pay for it in their regular trash rate or whatever, so.
Just ideas.
Yeah, I can talk to Keith, but I think that might be a little burdensome for that one time. If there's a bunch of them out there, it might be pretty tough to do it.
Everybody?
So just what are we voting for this time to make sure that I'm voting?
So can I motion to amend the motion on the floor to approve to delay the voting to second reading.
Is that the vote?
But we need a date certain. So I don't know how long Rob needs.
We could do, let's see, probably the first meeting in July.
Is there a date for that, Joanna?
July 9th?
July 9th is
July
first.
9th.
How does that sound, July 9th?
If that's possible.
Can you do that? That's really,
It's pretty quick.
that's really
Yeah,
fast.
it might
You
have
may
to
wanna
do
give
the
yourself-
second meeting in July.
How about you give yourself at least 30
Yeah,
days
yeah.
to get that?
I keep forgetting how far we are into the month already.
Yeah.
So.
Right, so, oh, go ahead.
Is the date certain that it's coming back to us, or the date certain that it goes into place? Because then I feel
No.
like we have to add for communication.
It would be the date certain where this would come back to you for consideration on second reading, along with a plan.
And the plan would have a date that we would want to implement. And then what I'm hearing is that, I think, Becky, what you said was that the city would continue to pay until we have this in place and notify everybody about it with a date certain that we would start that program.
That's what I would prefer to get more
Okay.
information. I'm thinking that if you could, the 23rd of July, that puts you like a month and a week or whatever, right?
Yeah, that should be plenty of time.
Does that work for you? I mean, is that a study session or is that a regular meeting, Joanna?
Regular.
Regular meeting.
Regular meeting.
See, look at that.
So I will restate the motion to amend the motion on the floor to delay voting on the ordinance until the regular meeting on July 23rd on second reading.
Motion to approve.
Need a second.
Second.
Aye. All right, Joanna, would you open the vote, please?
So we're voting on just postponing.
Correct.
I gave that one for Joyce. It was just courtesy.
Now the vote is open.
Thank you. Will you please vote?
I'll close that vote and the motion to continue CB 1906 on second reading to July 23rd, 2018 passes unanimously.
Thank you, Joanna. All right, the next ordinance that we are considering is CB 1907. Joanna, would you read the title, please?
A bill for an ordinance amending the City of Northglenn Municipal Code by the addition thereto of a new Article 17 to Chapter 18 regarding entertainment districts.
Move for approval.
Second.
Rob?
I think this is probably more in Corey or Joanna's area.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. This ordinance, if adopted, would authorize entertainment districts within the city of Northglenn. The memo put together by the city clerk identifies the definitions, if you will. This gives the mechanism for creating them, and there would be a second part of this, which is if application is made for the districts, the city council would have an opportunity to actually create the particular districts. The local licensing authority would have its role in terms of the promotional associations and attaching areas to the common consumption areas that are allowed within entertainment districts. But this is simply the framework for allowing entertainment districts in the city of Northglenn.
All right, discussion? Marcy?
So I'm not opposed to this. I don't want that to be heard in this, what I'm saying, but I'm just asking, did this get presented to the liquor board and do they have any awareness that it's coming forward? And more so it's just about including them in a process that they're about to be implemented.
It has not been presented to the liquor authority.
Is that because we don't have a process for that, or?
That, to me, was a timing issue. I think the city manager wanted this approved as soon as possible, and so to take it to the board before first reading did not occur.
Okay. I just, and again, I'm not opposed to it. I just kind of feel like that's probably something we should have had some communication with them on, but.
And now that you brought that up, has the planning commission been involved with it? I mean, they're doing all these other zoning and updates.
No, although I don't think typically creating sort of, at least in other communities that have considered entertainment districts that I've been involved with, I have not seen that go to planning commissions, because this is less a land use issue and more a creating sort of this temporary area for the common consumption areas.
Okay.
Jordan?
Thank you, Mayor. First, I want to say how excited I am about this, and thank you to Joanna and Corey for this incredible memo. I think it's really exciting. I think it's exciting for Northglenn to revitalize spaces that are currently not, but also giving us a place for placemaking and community involvement and having these different festivals or providing different opportunities for our local businesses. It's great, and I'm really excited. So thank you for doing this. And I urge a yes vote.
I just have a clarifying question, Corey. With the, I'm just curious, where did the no more than 100 acres or containing at least 20,000 square feet of liquor, like where did those numbers come from?
That is in state law, and that was
Okay.
part of the original 2011 legislation that authorized the creation of these entertainment districts. It's part of the definition.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? So can I assume then, since a promotional association has to be involved to get this off the ground, that we're not looking at something that's going to happen immediately, and that there will be time to get the liquor board up to speed and, yes?
That is correct.
Okay. Okay. Is that good? Maybe you feel?
Yeah, I was
okay?
fine. I just kind of feel like, when we talk about having open communication, I just kind of feel like that's important. If we were changing something on the planning, I would hope that we let them be aware of it. So again, it's not a negative vote for it. I'm excited for it too. I just, when we think about process and communication, I just want to make sure we're involved.
No, that's a valid point, so thank you. Joanna, would you open the vote, please?
The vote is open.
Please vote.
I'll close that vote, and CB 1907 on second reading passes unanimously.
Thank you. We will move, I'm sorry?
I just have, I was wondering if we could turn the air up over here. It's freezing.
Who's in control of the air conditioning?
It really is.
I second.
It's like Brandon, did you grab that? Yes, Brandon's got it, okay.
Pretty soon it'll be burning up.
All right, thank you. We will move to ordinances, first reading. And the first is CB 1908. Joanna, would you read the title, please?
A bill for an ordinance amending the Northglenn Municipal Code by the addition thereto of a new section 9-14-15 concerning pedestrian access to medians and repealing Article 7 of Chapter 7 of the Northglenn Municipal Code.
Second.
Move for approval.
Marcy made the first.
Oh, second. And I, yeah, okay.
All right.
We got this.
Rob?
So this was, we've had several complaints about people that have been in the intersections in pedestrian areas or non-pedestrian areas. And so we hired Sustainable Traffic Solutions, who does a lot of work for us as it regards to traffic, and asked them to look at these areas for safety considerations. And his report is attached here, and I believe that we're recommending 3 things to be done for this so that we can put signage and all that so that we can take care of those safety issues for people in the medians and the pedestrian areas.
Okay, I see Corey.
Yeah, let me take a crack at it.
Yeah, go ahead.
So there are a couple of different issues and safety concerns regarding folks and how they use the right-of-way. The city has previously adopted an ordinance that prohibits sitting down, lying down in the right-of-way. This ordinance addresses medians that are not created for people to stay on the median. And so this study was able to identify those areas where it is dangerous for people to be on the median because it's not built for storage of pedestrians. And so the study was the basis for saying these areas and areas near it in the center aren't built for safety considerations for the storage of pedestrians. And if adopted, this ordinance would prevent people from staying on the median. It allows them to get across the street. It allows them, if they have inability to get across the street in one cycle, to get to the halfway point and then move across at the next cycle. But it doesn't allow them to remain there because the medians aren't built for that.
Discussion?
No. Jenny, you want to
If
go
I call
first?
on you, would, so that I don't have to, I mean, I looked at you, please.
Okay, I will go now.
Thank you.
This is to help alleviate the problem that we also have. Okay, let me say it differently. will this also help alleviate the problem that we have with people meandering in the center median?
The issue is that whether you are asking for directions or whether you are asking for money, the First Amendment protects the expression of people that are using the medians, but it doesn't allow people that are using the medians to use them in a manner that creates an unsafe condition. And so this addresses the safety concerns related to the width of the median, the speed of the cars going by, and all of the issues that create safety issues.
Thank you. This probably isn't a question for you, Corey, probably one more for Chief May. But can somebody speak to the enforcement piece of this?
This is part of what the homeless task force made up of city staff has been looking at. The police have been involved. They are aware of this ordinance. If this is adopted on second reading, there's signage that would be identified, and then the police would be doing both really an educational and an enforcement campaign together, much like they've done previously with camping and much like what they've done previously with the no sitting and lying in the right-of-way ordinance.
And should someone refuse to move, what is that? What happens?
They would get a ticket for violating this section, and they would go to court.
Discussion? Any questions? No. All right, Joanna, would you open the vote, please?
The vote is open.
Please vote.
We'll close that vote, and CB 1908 on first reading passes unanimously.
Thank you. We will move to, I'm sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here. CB 1909, rezoning for certain real properties at 10700 Pecos Street. Joanna, would you read the title, please?
A bill for a special ordinance rezoning from O-1 open space to R-1-B residential, certain real property in the city of Northglenn located at 10700 Pecos Street in the county of Adams, state of Colorado, and amending the zoning map of the city of Northglenn.
Move your approval. Second.
Rob?
I believe Becky and Ashley are here that can talk to this issue.
Hi, Becky. How are you?
Good evening, Mayor Downing, Council. This is a rezoning for the property at 10700 Pecos Street from O1 to residential. Basically, they're rezoning it so that they can open up a church on the property. If there's any further questions, we do plan on doing a presentation at the second reading for this one, but I can definitely answer any questions tonight as well.
Does anyone have questions tonight, or would you like to just wait till second reading? Yes.
Has it gone through planning commission?
Yes, it has.
Corey?
And because this is a zoning matter, our recommendation is that unless there's sort of basic clarification questions, that the questions wait till the public hearing, because the ordinance on second reading will be the noticed public hearing, and it is a quasi-judicial act of the council. So that's the time where the record will be made on the rezoning.
All right. Thank you, Becky. Joanna, would you open the vote, please?
The vote is open.
Please vote.
We'll close that vote, and CB 1909 on first reading passes unanimously.
Our next ordinance is CB 1910. Joanna, would you read the title, please?
A bill for a special ordinance amending the 2018 budget, recognizing revenues and appropriating expenditures by supplemental appropriation for the payment of the costs and expenses of the municipal government, agencies, and offices of the city of Northglenn, Colorado for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2018.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Again, Jason will be here to provide any questions, as I will as well, for the any questions on the Justice Center supplemental appropriation.
All right. Does anyone have questions for Jason? No? Okay. Seeing none, Joanna, would you open the vote, please?
The vote is open. We'll close that vote, and CB 1910 on first reading passes unanimously. And I would like to note for the record that the public hearings on CB 1908, CB 1909, and CB 1910 will be held on June 25th, 2018, here in City Hall Council Chambers.
Thank you. All right, we move to resolutions. The first one is CR 73. Joanna, please.
A resolution accepting Colorado Department of Transportation grant funding.
Second.
Again, Chief May is here if you have any questions on that, and we want to let him go home and go to bed after this because he's been up for a long time.
All right.
Really?
We get lots of questions.
Are there any questions?
No.
All right. Hearing none, I guess you're free to leave. Joanna, would you open the vote, please?
Vote is open.
Please vote. Sorry.
I'll close that vote, and CR 73 passes unanimously.
Thank you. We move to CR 74. Joanna, please.
A resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Northglenn, the City of Thornton, Adams County, and the Urban Drainage and Flood Control District regarding development of a major drainage plan and flood hazard area delineation for Brantner Gulch and its tributaries.
Motion to approve.
Okay. Rob?
And this is an IGA that we have with other ordinance or other jurisdictions around. Ken is here if we have any specific questions regarding this.
Are there questions regarding this resolution? Okay. Hearing none, Joanna, would you open the vote, please?
The vote is open.
Please vote.
I'll close that vote, and CR 74 passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next is CR 75. Joanna, please.
A resolution approving the Adams County Collaborative Transportation Planning Agreement to establish the Adams County Council of Governments Subregional Forum process.
Second.
Rob?
And this is Ashley's turn, I believe, to come up. She's the one that has the information on this.
Ashley, you want to give us just a little bit of background?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor and Council. On June 4th, we held a study session to brief you guys on both this action item and the one that will follow for you to appoint a member to the Subregional Forum. The City of Northglenn has participated in a collaborative transportation planning IGA or intergovernmental agreement with Adams County and the jurisdictions since 2000. The last renewal was 2010. This latest renewal that we are asking you to consider is to incorporate new process from the Denver Regional Council of Governments, who allocates our transportation improvement dollars, or TIP funding. They're moving from a centralized model to a dual model, and they've asked each county or subregion, in this case, to create a forum in order to help allocate those dollars. So I'm happy to answer any specific questions.
Thank you. Any questions? No? Thank you, Ashley.
Mm-hmm.
Joanna, would you open the vote, please?
The vote is open.
Please vote.
Did we clarify?
No. That's a
Oh, that's
separate
it.
resolution.
Close that vote, and CR 75 passes unanimously.
Thank you. We move to CR 76. Joanna, please.
A resolution appointing the Adams County Council of Governments Subregional Forum representative for the City of Northglenn, Colorado.
Excuse me, before we make a motion on this item, I think it's appropriate just to open the floor up to candidates who are interested, and we can just have council discussion, and then we can insert a name and vote from there. That works for everybody. Okay, so I know you've reached out and you said that you're interested, Julie, so.
Yeah, so I am currently the alternate for Dr. Cog, and I would be interested in being the appointee for the subcommittee. I think it would be a great learning experience. It's my first cycle, so I think you'll learn a lot from the experience. So.
Anyone else interested? Joyce is interested?
I am also interested. And I'm the second alternate for Dr. Cox, so we still are there. About a month and a half ago, the sub-regional committee actually sent out an email to everyone to start coming to the meetings. I've attended all the meetings. I've been very involved with them, and so I think that what I've learned so far would be beneficial. And this is interesting, I didn't do this, but somebody nominated me to be the vice chair of that regional committee. So I don't know if I'll get it or not, because I'm sure other people have also been nominated. But because of that, I would be interested in it. Plus, I'm the past chair of NADA, current chair of Smart Commute, so I bring the experience needed for the position.
Anybody else interested? No? Okay, is there a discussion?
I just have a quick question. Thank you, Mayor. So if we assign one to attend, but you can still attend without being the official point? Okay.
Yes, it's open meeting. Anyone, staff has been there, Brooke has been there.
Yeah.
I've been there for all the meetings. The mayor came to the first meeting, so anyone can come.
Okay.
And as far as the learning process, this is going to be a learning process for everyone. This is a new process. In the past, it was all at Dr. Cog, so the sub-regionals now will make their decision for the region, and then it goes back to Dr. Cog, the final vote.
Awesome. Thank you.
Any discussion? No? I'm going to put my 2 cents in, and that would be, I definitely support Joyce in this because she has been at all of the meetings thus far. There are probably only 5 total, and so maybe 3 more after this. I feel like for a sense of continuity in having somebody from Northglenn represent Northglenn, that she is an ideal candidate just because of her past experience. So I would definitely, that's my choice. Yes.
I would just like to say that I appreciate Julie standing up and volunteering for it, but I also feel the same way that Joyce may be the perfect fit to keep moving in this role. But I think it's great that you volunteered because so I would be more inclined with Joy just because of all the knowledge that she brings with everything that comes with it. So that's where I am with it. But
thank you. I want to say thank you both for stepping up, and also thank you, Mayor Dodge, for letting us have this conversation. I know that we've brought it up a couple of times that we want to decide as a council, so thanks for hearing us and bringing this forward for discussion. It means a lot. Joyce, I really appreciate all of the experience that you bring to this position. I really love the idea of having a new set of eyes on everything that's moving forward. And I think you said yourself, everybody's going to be learning, and this is a new process. And so please don't take, my support of Julie as any knock against you. You're incredible and completely knowledgeable. I just want to see a new perspective. So I'll be supporting Julie.
So like Julie, yours, right?
Yeah. Is there further discussion from anybody? No? Can I make a motion inserting a name? Okay. So I would move to insert Joyce Downing's name as the appointee to the Adams County Sub-Regional.
So it would be a motion to approve Council Resolution 76.
Yes, with Joyce Downing's name inserted as the representative. Is there a second?
I second my own. I don't know.
Second.
All right.
All right. If there's no discussion, and I'm assuming there isn't.
Can I just, one more thing? I'm sorry. I just think that it's really important, coming off of what Jenny says, that you and Julie work together, though. I mean, I know we can only have one voting member, but I think you guys could work together and be quite a force for North.
Right.
Can I ask a really quick question? On our packet, it says that we're appointing a representative and an alternate.
That's an error. So.
Oh, it is?
Yeah,
Okay.
And it was corrected. And I'm sorry, so maybe you don't have they only want one representative.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Yes. Anybody else? Gordon?
Yeah, no, I would really like to thank Julie for attending those Dr. Cog meetings that I couldn't attend. My question is, So we've had these meetings before, you've already attended them, so on and so forth. Is there an option for Julie to be able to catch up or to revisit what was already presented at these meetings, to be able to be at that point? I just feel like I appreciate her leadership for standing up and agree with Jenny with a new set of eyes, but is there online documents that she can?
Not at this point, other than in the meetings, and they provide the list from NADA. I mean, because they're trying to create a list, you know, that's going to be not only regional but local. So these projects will be coming forward. So there is a website up there that, you know, anyone can come to the meeting.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
thank you.
And is anybody else being wrapped up? So I would just have to say that while I respect Julie for coming forward, I'm sorry, but there is respect for somebody who's gone through the motions and has put in the work so far. So, and Joyce has been there. And so anyway, that's all I want to say for that. Joanna, would you open the vote, please?
The vote is open.
Please vote. It has Joyce's name in there right now.
I'll close that vote, and CR 76 passes with 4 no votes cast by council members Wilford, Duran-Mullica, Sowers, and Escobar.
Thank you. All right, we will move to CR 77. Joanna, please.
A resolution renewing the intergovernmental agreement between Adams County Board of County Commissioners and the City of Northglenn for the Community Development Block Grant Program.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Rob?
And Ashley is here for that as well.
You want to give a little bit of background? Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor and Council. So this resolution tonight is a little bit different because we're not actually asking you to sign an intergovernmental agreement. We're actually asking you to approve a resolution to do an automatic 3-year renewal. Adams County is known as an urban county, which means they can receive HUD funding for Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG funding. And then as a member of Adams County, Northglenn has been receiving an allocation from Adams County, I believe since 1986. And so we have entered a series of intergovernmental agreements, or IGAs, in 3-year increments, starting in 1986 with our last update in 2015. Because they're not suggesting any amendments to the IGA, Adams County is just suggesting that we adhere to the 3-year automatic renewal. But I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Questions? No? Thank you, Ashley. Appreciate that. Joanna, would you open the vote, please?
The vote is open.
Please vote.
I'll close that vote, and CR 77 passes unanimously.
Thank you. And our final resolution is CR 78. Joanna, please.
A resolution accepting the audit of the comprehensive annual financial report for the City of Northglenn for the year ended December 31, 2017.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Jason, would you like to add anything tonight?
We just wanted to make sure that we started and ended the night with our audit.
Always a star, Jason.
One of the most significant documents that we have with city. You know, this is just following in suit in accordance with Section 8.14 of the city charter that will perform an annual audit. Kevin represented that, you know, this is really an external point of view that's maintaining our accountability of stewardship to the community. You know, they're working for the taxpayers, and the council and staff is just the support that helps them kind of go through what we do. But it's really accepting the findings from the auditors for the entire community. So,
any questions for Jason?
I just want to say you did a fabulous job again.
All right, you guys should all have the nice document for.
Yes, love the colors, everything about it.
I'll quiz you as I see you through the halls over the next couple of months.
Something
exciting. Another great year, Jason.
Thank you, Jason, for a
Appreciate
very audit. Thank you so much. Joanna, would you open the vote, please?
The vote is open.
Please vote.
close that vote. NCR 78 passes unanimously.
Thank you. We will move to communications, and we'll start with Jenny.
Nothing at this time.
Okay, all right. Julie? Nothing. No? Marcy?
Now I feel kind of guilty on my list. So just a couple of things. I wanted to give an update from Anything Library, which I believe they're going to be coming in July to give a presentation. But I wanted to say that one of the really cool things that has been happening for Anything is they've been doing a tour in Denmark of one of the most famous world libraries. It is a testament to how great our libraries are here. Denmark has come, taken tours, explored how they've been doing their experience zones, and had several weeks being here touring the facilities. Anything sent a handful of folks to go tour their facilities and look at some of their architecture and some of their programming for their 2 new locations. And I just think that's a really proud moment for us to have that experience here in the North Metro area. And they will talk about that. Is there something really funny about that?
No, we ordered pizza for executive session and we overheard them talking about it.
All right. Okay. So next item that I want to just mention is they have the goats returning to the Anything Library, and your 2 closest libraries that you can see those are Monday, June 18th at the Anything Wright Farms, and then also Thursday, June 21st at the Huron Center, the Huron Street location. So they partner with the Apple Farms to bring in goats. Kids get to experience them, some of the weeds that are in their area. It's just a fun program for your kids if you can get them there. Also wanted to say congratulations to Arby's on their soft opening, which happened on Saturday. And I wasn't here, but I wanted to just say thank you to all of the staff and the volunteers that made Food Truck Carnival possible. We will be coming forward with summary as to how the funding went for the Northglenn Community Foundation for selling the adult beverages. It was rainy, but it was a great success. And some of the programs that benefit from those alcoholic beverage sales are the backpacks that we do for A Precious Child, which we will be giving a plug here soon for that. Christmas Crusades, Meals on Wheels, and most recently summer camp scholarships for kiddos to attend some of the programs at the rec center for the summer. And then the last thing, I promised a resident I would bring this forward. We have a resident that has been an advocate for probably the last 8 months about fireworks. And probably the most defeating thing for her to see Thornton take away with their signs and be out there pushing it. And I know it's not something that communications hasn't heard about, that our previous city manager wasn't aware of. But we have had a resident that has been on it about the fireworks and promoting the fines that we have here in Northglenn and making sure residents are really aware of it. And just a little sad that we didn't do a better job of supporting her in her efforts and seeing that in another community. So hopefully we can do a better job of that in the next month.
We will be making, I think, 300 signs and making them available to residents.
Can I please have one of those signs to take to this resident?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We will have them made hopefully this week, and we should be getting them out. And then we'll also have Parks and Rec distribute some for the local area in the parks and those areas. It's a little different than the Thornton sign. We wanted to say Northglenn instead. So
I think that's a good idea. But thank you for that.
Yep.
I would just like to share that I was at Derby Days, which was the combination fishing derby and bike giveaway. Great event, a lot of staff helped get that off the ground, so thank you to the staff. And I look forward to giving out some stuffed fish trophies coming up. I'm not sure which meeting we're having that at, but we will have the winners and we'll give out some trophies. So I'm looking forward to that. And then the only other thing I wanted to mention is I had pizza with the mayor last month, and then this month on June 25th at 8:30, I'm going to do another coffee with the mayor because I've been hearing from those people they feel neglected. So I'm going to do a coffee with the mayor, and I will probably have a little bit at the pizza with the mayor. We had Eric Ensley from planning, and he presented on the zoning updates, and I think that went over really well because there were a lot of questions. So I believe I would like somebody from planning to help me, even though I haven't outreached yet. So that's on my radar. And that's it?
I don't have anything, I mean, I don't have much too exciting, but I did want to let council know that the outside sponsorship and, help me what I'm called. The outside funding agency.
Yes.
Look, we do it together. Met tonight. We had approved a couple, one for the Adams County Youth Initiative, and we're going to do an active sponsor there. There are 4 seats available to that one. And then we have the, not that one. Lost my place. You're rubbing off on me, Carol.
Me?
Yeah, you are. Now, we do have, it was recommended by the committee and myself, of course, that we do have a request from Costa, or Indulge for Costa. And it is a wine and cheese fundraising event. And the tickets are available for $60 per person. We found it cost prohibitive to do a table this year. So if any of you are interested, please let me know, throw me an email, and we'll get you set up with Susan and we'll get that taken care of, okay? Other than that, mine's kind of boring. I'm sorry guys, I'll do better.
My turn? Okay, I just have a couple things. First of all, I want to tell everybody that June 27th is Bike to Work week or work day, and we always have a station over at Rains Park. They actually open up like at 7 o'clock in the morning, so, but we get a lot of people that come through, so I want to tell everybody about that. Also, I just want to kind of give everybody an update that Thornton is now starting a 2-year pilot program for bike sharing. You know, so that's the only one in the area. So we're going to see how that works first. I was trying to encourage Northglenn to do it, but we just didn't have the ability to do it at this time. So, but anyway, Thornton is starting it as we speak. And then the most exciting thing that I think, and Jenny was there, and several other council people, the governor did come to Stonehawker, and he signed 2 bills into law, which was really exciting. And he actually entertained us for a while on the piano, so that was fun. But I do want to thank all of the staff for what they did. I mean, everybody, as soon as they found out that he was coming to Stonehawker, the Parks Department, everybody came out, and it was wonderful. The house looked wonderful. So thank you for all. I mean, we couldn't have shown the house off without you guys helping us, so thank you. And then the other thing, I did attend the Adams County meeting for when they gave us a grant for open spaces, and we got $340,000 for the Northwest open space. So I was there that day with Amanda and Annie.
Hello. So I was also at Derby Day. It was a ton of fun. It was a beautiful day. I was there with the Youth Commission. They were selling burritos, and that was fun. Good kids, and it was just a beautiful day. The combination of the events, I think, really enriched the entire experience. It was more than just about fishing. There were more activities, and I think that kept people in the park longer. And then, I don't know, this was new information to me, and I thought it was so cool, so I wanted to share it. So we have a city horticulturalist, which I did not know, and I thought this was fascinating. Ben Cathcart, and so he helped the Youth Commission plant the Veterans Memorial Garden over in E.B. Rains Park. And so I was a part of that last week. And it was just amazing because the number of plants that he brought, they were all grown from seed. We partner with, I think it's Westminster in their greenhouse. And so we share space there. But so all the plants that you see in the city are actually raised from seed. And that saves us a ton of money, which I thought was so great. And then it was just a fun event. Jenny Murphy was there to help us out with the Youth Commission in the planting of that garden. So that was really fun. And then I had a question, kind of back to the fireworks. And it kind of goes to the chief a little bit. How do we enforce? Because I don't believe this is a new law that fireworks are illegal. But I know in my neighborhood, they go off every other house. and it doesn't seem to stop. So I'm hoping signs will deter it, but I do know I've got plenty of neighbors that are like, yeah, whatever. There's so many people doing it that you can't keep up. So I don't know how you enforce that.
So before the 4th of July and everything else, if we get fireworks complaints, we'll go to the area and see if we can identify it. Sometimes, and that's a challenge. So, but if we get someone that's saying, hey, you know, and then it's identifying the person who set those off. So if we can, a lot of times we'll go there and they're like, oh, they're not mine. So we'll confiscate them and destroy them. And if we can identify who was shooting them off, we don't give out a ticket. But if we can, we'll do that. Okay. So 4th of July is our busiest night of the year. So a lot of times it's a lot of warnings that we give out, and then we start, you know, really doing, the later days, the 5th, the 6th. I put bike patrol out last year, try to sneak up in those areas that have a lot of fireworks complaints. Try to identify the ones that are shooting them off. One thing that we have, if you noticed on the Thornton signs, their fines are much higher. I think ours start at, I think it's $200. So I think if we really want to get serious about trying to reduce that, because it is a hazard. I love Thornton signs, and I think that's, you know, we decided to replicate that actually several weeks ago. I think we should maybe look at the fines for fireworks and make it a mandatory amount. I've seen them as high as $800. You know, once you, fine, and like I said, Thornton, I think it's at $500.
Can we do away with the warning?
It's tough. I mean, with that many calls and everything else, it takes time to, write those out and everything else. And I'll get the number of calls for service that we do on the 4th of July. That's where we give the warnings. If it's the 5th or 6th, we don't. You know, my order to the officers last year is if you catch them and you can identify who was shooting them off, you write them a ticket. But on the 4th of July, I mean, if it's one of those things, if we confiscate them, we go back to that house, then my expectation to my officers is that they issue a summons. But we have fights, we have all these other things happen that night, so a lot of alcohol violations. So it's just prioritizing the calls, and I know it's irritating, and dealing with that. So
I'm guessing that some of the alcohol-related fights are combined with fireworks. I have personally chosen to leave town because my neighborhood is so bad on the 4th. It's terrible. It's literally every other house. Yeah. So I don't know if, as they're waiting for calls or they can just drive through streets. I don't know.
What I can do this year, last year was kind of a mellow year for us, because normally when we do the staffing plan for the 4th of July, because other cities do fireworks too, so if we have a big event, we want to make sure our officers are available to handle, the calls. So I'll talk to Commander Lopez and see if maybe we can break off a group, maybe 3 or 4 officers that can, maybe that's their priority that night. They go and try to catch people with fireworks and issue summonses and do that. So I just have to see how many officers are available that are working that night, and then maybe we can adjust. Maybe we'll bring in less during the day and push more into the night. So there's some things that we can do to try to really curb that. But again, I think it's looking at the fines and everything else and really make it sting if they're out there shooting the fireworks off. But that's just me.
Thank you.
So I have a question. Because I think that's a good point. Hey, Chief. I'm sorry, I know you want to leave, but, and I might be mistaken, but I thought I heard that there was a program maybe in Denver or somewhere where they have a certain phone number that you can call, and it's specifically for firework rather than the 911 where they have to go to AdCom, and it's dispersed that way. But they had some kind of a program going on where it was a number that people call just to report fireworks.
For us, to be, on top of it quickly, it has to go through our dispatch center, because they can call our records, but I think it'd be more immediate if they would call dispatch, and they can call the non-emergency number, which we'd rather prefer them to do, and then we can get an officer out there. But again, you know, the fire department, everything else, it causes a lot of fires,
Right.
resident, you know, houses, sheds.
And it's so dry right
Yeah,
now.
so, yeah.
We are putting the non-emergency number on the signs.
Oh, great.
So people can call.
Great, thank you.
So because of the dryness, we haven't in a while. Does the city do anything to, spray down the large fields that are open, or any type of, potential mitigation to prevent any type of fire?
Well, I know parks, you know, they'll try to mow in some of those, you know, areas, but, again, I mean, it happens. I mean, there's, you know, along the canals and everything else, it gets dangerous. But I think the parks try to do their best on trying to keep, you know, the grasses low so we don't have a huge outbreak. But I can talk to Amanda and see what other mitigation that they do. But I don't think they do a lot of spraying of those areas with water and stuff.
Mary, were you done, or?
I am done.
You're done?
Sorry.
Okay.
That was
Jordan?
it.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
No? Okay. Joanna?
I do have 3 quick items.
Yeah.
They're quick. So I'm sure you're all aware that the June 26th primary is happening right now. So the county has sent out ballots. Our 24-hour drop-off box that's in the south parking lot at City Hall is open. And there are several other locations throughout the county where people can drop those ballots off. This is the first time in state history that unaffiliated voters will be participating in the primary. So the one thing that I would love to remind those voters is to make sure that they're only returning 1 ballot when they vote. But please vote. And then I attended the International Institute of Municipal Clerks conference recently, a few weeks ago, and was able to attend some really interesting and useful sessions that covered inclusivity and diversity and community cultures, which was very interesting, managing technology and human interactions, and then the hot topic here of city council orientations. So I'm trying to balance wanting to talk endlessly about all of the information I learned and being that super annoying person. So I won't do that, but I'm really excited to use that information here for sure. And then lastly, just a quick update on the Citizens Affairs Board. They met on June 6th, this last week. They are talking about participating in National Night Out on August 1st for 2 reasons. First, to hopefully recruit a Board 2 member so that they can have a full board. And then also to just make their presence known, let residents know that they exist, they're here to receive those proposals and complaints from them. And in addition, staff would like to bring forward an ordinance to council in the next few weeks, maybe early July, to consider expanding the board's functions so that if council has certain projects that they would deem appropriate for the board to help with, for example, maybe the inclusivity committee that's been talked about briefly, or just other community engagement projects, the board would love to help out with those things, and staff believes with a pretty simple ordinance revision that could be accomplished. So if additional information is needed, I can send that out to council via email, and hopefully look forward to that in a few weeks.
Those are great items. Thanks for sharing all that.
That's all.
Rob?
One thing, I don't know if there was ever a consensus on whether or not we would have the July 2nd meeting or not. We don't have anything scheduled. We've kept everything off of there because of the holiday. We had talked about it a couple weeks ago, but I don't know if there was a consensus to actually cancel that meeting.
Council have the
I'm here.
Yeah. July 2nd?
The 5 Monday month, right?
That's the 5 Monday
It is the
month.
5 Monday.
So we
should
could, so what, if we have a meeting on the 2nd, then we would take not one on the 30th, or vice versa? No, just do them all the way through?
So what's the question?
It's a 5 month.
Right.
Trying to switch it from, you want to cancel the 2nd and have it on the 30th, is that what you're saying?
Basically, yeah.
Or no, I think he was saying, do you want to cancel?
Do you want to cancel the July 2nd meeting?
Was hearing.
Oh, and not make up one, okay.
Right.
And not make it up on the 30th?
Right.
Yeah, we don't need to.
I mean, it depends on how much business we have. Are we?
Right now, there's nothing scheduled for the 2nd. They've been keeping that slate clean just in case there wasn't going to be, because a lot of people travel and do that, so we weren't sure what we wanted to do.
All right. So how do people feel about canceling the meeting on the 2nd? Who would like to cancel the meeting?
No business.
Right?
Either way.
I think more of us are in
I'll go
favor,
with
but
that.
I don't. Yeah, I don't think anybody is tied into having one, so.
We don't have
Am I
anything
reading that
scheduled.
We
right?
don't have anything scheduled and we
All right,
don't need
let's-
to address any.
So do you want to cancel it, everybody? Yes? Okay.
Sounds like you want to cancel it. Okay.
Okay.
All right. That's all I have.
Thank you. Corey?
Nothing this evening.
All right, thank you. We have public invited to be heard, limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Statements should be related to an item previously addressed by council during the meeting. Tim, you're the only public. Do you want to come up? Not tonight, okay. All right, so I would make a motion to adjourn the regular city council meeting and move into executive session pursuant to section 4.5, parent D of the City of Northglenn Home Rule Charter for legal consultation and advice regarding personnel matters. Need a second?
Second.
Joanna, would you open the vote, please?
The vote is open.
Thank you. Please vote.
Meredith.
I thought I was done.
I was going to just verbally say it.
I'll close that vote, and the motion to adjourn to executive session passes unanimously.
Thank you. We are adjourned, and then we'll take a break until Brandon breaks.